Hey everybody. So thank you guys all for joining us today. We wanted to quickly get out there and share some exciting news from the Pacific Northwest rainforest, home of the world headquarters for audio control.
Absolutely. We've got some cool stuff to talk about today and exciting product launch coming out today, which is, or not launching today, I should say, but something we wanted to just show everybody, and that's the new LC1i.
So today, guys, we have something very special, the launch and the release of the LC1i. We've talked about this product. We've had some out there with some of our correspondents and dealer base to test and check out and see exactly what it is. So we wanted to take a few minutes today to go over exactly what the new LC1i is, how it can benefit your system, and why you should be using audio control products. So with that, my name is Chris Bennett, up here in the Pacific Northwest with audio control, and I'm going to turn it over to the national trainer, Matthew Palumbo.
Yeah, I'm Matthew Palumbo, National Trainer for Audio Control, like Chris said, and just wanted to go over a couple of quick things with the LC1i and show you guys some of the cool stuff that it can do. And like Chris said, you know, why you should be using it in your system, and more importantly, why we want to show guys, you know, why you would maybe use this rather than a, you know, off-the-shelf $20 or $30 high-to-low adapter that's passive, right? Because when you think about doing a base add-on or just a simple base package for your customer or for yourself, you know, a lot of vehicles today, you can't change the head unit, or you don't want to, or the first upgrade that comes to mind is just adding bass, because what do most factory systems lack? They lack bass. So the first thing that comes to mind for most guys is doing just a simple bass upgrade, which is usually adding an amp and sub. And you know, if you're going to do that and you're trying to stick to some sort of a budget, the common thing is, hey, I'm just going to use a basic, you know, passive high to low adapter. And for years and years and years in this industry, that's what we did, right? We went and grabbed a product from any number of different brands. I won't name any of them, but we went and grabbed an inexpensive $20, $30 adapter. We slapped it in there and went, good enough, right? We would even sometimes tell our customers, hey, you're only getting 70 to 80% of the performance you could be getting, and so on and so forth. But is that good enough? We certainly don't think so. And it's not just about, you know, 70 to 80% of the performance. You're actually losing some of the sound, right? What a lot of people don't realize is that when you're using a basic passive line output converter, you are actually chopping off some of the low frequency signal. So the one thing that you put in this device to achieve, which was better bass, you are cutting off by using this cheap part. So you put in this great amp and this fantastic woofer, and you took all the time to research and pick out the perfect box, and then you cut off the low frequencies from your signal path because you didn't want to spend a few dollars on a high to low adapter. And so Audio Control figured this out, and you know, years ago we came out with the LC2i. It's been a huge success. We recently launched the LC2i Pro, which even adds some more advanced features. But what about the cars that don't need all that stuff? What about the amp that came with a bass knob? What about the customer that, you know, is just putting in a couple $100 amplifier and doesn't need AccuBass? Their car doesn't have bass roll off, or they just need the basics. That's really where the LC1i is going to shine. So this is physically very small. The LC1i is not huge. Sorry, let me get it there where you can see it a little bit better. You know, in comparison to like an iPhone, this is physically pretty small. It's even smaller than a phone. So physically a pretty small device. This has a lot of the features of the LC2i Pro and the LC2i, but without some of that stuff that you may not need for some of those more basic installs.
So guys, let me just go over real quick. This product has started to ship. So Matthew, please hold that LC1i up in front of you there.
Absolutely.
So, everybody, this is the LC1i. It is an active line output converter. Like Matthew explained, you have the means to do a whole bunch of different things with your car audio systems. If you're using a factory system, the LC1i is going to be an active line output converter that's just not taking that factory signal and squashing it down to nothing so that you can use your RCA input. It's actually taking that signal and not taking anything away from what you get into it. So the LC1i is also a line driver, which is hugely important. If you have a boat, if you have some kind of a system, a Bluetooth device for your hot rod, anything like that where you feel like you're just not getting quite enough out of your amplifier, you can use the LC1i as a line driver, RCA in, and then have it line driven out with up to 9 volts of output. That means that your amplifier can do its job better because it doesn't have to work as hard. You don't have to turn your input sensitivity levels all the way up in order to get the desired or maximum output out of your amplifiers. This
Yeah, and it's one of those things.
It is not a replacement for the LC2i. The LC2i Pro does have a separate bass output. It does have a lot of other features, but the LC1i is going to be a piece that will allow you to get a lot more out of your systems than a standard passive line output converter. One thing that I've said for years and years is that what has changed in car audio when you talk about line output converters? Well, the signal that you're getting from your factory systems has changed dramatically in the last 20 years. So when you use a passive line output converter, you're using a 25 to 30-year-old passive design product. And the LC1i is new. It's a great piece for giving your system full range output from whatever you're feeding it. And it's a line-driven output with up to 9 volts. That means everything is going to play louder, stay cleaner, be more efficient, less likely to have blown speakers, anything like that when you use an active line output converter. And AudioControl is known for making the best quality, highest warranted, professional. We back up all of our products 100% with our outstanding warranties. This is an amazing product and another legacy piece for AudioControl for getting the best to do exactly what our company is founded on, and that's making good sound great. Everything has a potential to sound better, and this is a great preamp solution for taking a factory setup and getting the most output at a better price point, and really delivering that actively, everything you need without having anything smashed down. Okay.
Yeah, so let's talk features for a minute. So Chris mentioned that this has a line driver built into it, and you can use it as just a line driver. If you don't need a high to low adapter, but you do need a high quality line driver, the LC1i is a great answer for that. Also from a, kind of a system building expansion point of view, let's say today you are putting in a bass package, but in the back of your mind, you're like, you know what, I am probably going to put a double din or one of these new, big screen units from Pioneer, Kenwood, Alpine, whatever. You're thinking about putting one of those in down the road. And so maybe you don't want to spend a ton of money on an LOC because, well, you're thinking you're going to replace it later or take it out anyway. Well, that doesn't have to be the case if you're using the LC1i. Now you've got a high quality LOC that's active and is going to give you the best possible signal. But later on, when you add that new head unit, you can keep this in the system. You don't have to take it out and throw it away or toss it in the junk drawer. You can keep this in there as a line driver, and it's still going to give you some improvement because no matter what aftermarket head unit you put in there, it's not going to be able to deliver the type of signal output that this can. So just keep that in the back of your mind as far as upgrades and expandability in the future go. Also, as far as being able to integrate with pretty much any OEM system, we've got some really cool features on the front of the LC1i that aren't going to be found on pretty much any other LOC, especially in this price category. So with this piece, not only do we have the ability to take in 40 volts of high level input, which is super important. It's going to mean that it can accept up to about 400 watts of input, you guys. So there's really no factory system out there that you can't use this with. You don't have to find signal pre-amplifier. If your system has a factory amp, you can grab the signal coming right out of that factory amplifier, send it into an LC1i, and you've got clean signal coming out the other end. But to also help deal with a lot of these more modern vehicles that are getting trickier to install and integrate with, we've got some cool new features on here. So the first of those I'll go over is the load select switch. This is our LMC, which stands for load matching circuit. And this has 3 settings in it. If you're familiar with AudioControl's LGDs, which are load generating devices, essentially think of it as the LC1i has all 3 LGDs built inside. All you've got to do is select the right switch for your vehicle, and away you go. So those modern vehicles like the new Jeeps and Chryslers, Dodge, Ram, Maseratis, Alfa Romeos, Fiats, all these modern vehicles that are kind of a pain to integrate with because those factory radios and amplifiers need to see a load present. This has the load built in. Slide the switch and you're done. We also have our trigger modes in the middle. The trigger modes are really cool. We have GTO, which we've obviously had on other products in the past. That stands for great turn on. This is a DC offset based turn on. So a lot of vehicles can work with GTO, but there's also a lot of later model vehicles, German vehicles, vehicles with factory amplifiers and things that won't work with DC offset type turn on. So we included a new turn on mode called audio turn on. Audio turn on is really cool, you guys. This is basically looking at the input section, and all it's looking for is 40 millivolts of signal to be present. That's not much. That's barely turning up the volume on that factory radio. Your LC1i turns on, and then in turn turns on your amplifier and the rest of your system. So no more hunting for switched power when you're trying to do a basic bass package add-on and you don't want to go to the front of the car to go find that remote turn on or switch lead somewhere. This can work with pretty much every vehicle out there. The last switch on here is going to be the ground isolation switch. This is for in case you run into any noise issues. If you run into turn on pops, turn off clicks, engine whine, buzzing, hissing, any of that weird stuff that unfortunately sometimes happens when integrating with factory systems, you can simply slide a switch on here to 3 different choices. I'll spare you all the details of what all those mean and are. We can get into that later, but 9 times out of 10, sliding the switch is going to get rid of those noise issues. There's also a maximized LED on top. This is going to help you to set up the output level to make sure that we're not clipping the output here, making sure that we're getting the most out of that factory system every time. So that's a brief overview of this guy. And this does have a remote output as well. So keep in mind, regardless of whether you feed in a 12-volt turn-on signal or you use one of our automatic turn-on modes, that remote turn-on output is always going to turn on your amplifier.
So thank you guys for joining us. We quickly wanted to go over some of the new features on the LC1i. It's now available. You will start seeing more and more of these available in your market, in your local dealer. Check out the LC1i. If you want to take a factory system and whatever you're feeding it, get a good, strong output signal out of it, the LC1i is the solution. We also have our brand new LC2i Pro. If you're doing a bass package and you want to make sure you're getting the best, strongest, cleanest bass possible to feed your amplifiers, please check out our LC2i Pro. Thanks for joining us today. And thank you for always paying attention and listening to quality audio and using AudioControl products.
Thanks so much, you guys. Thanks for the support, and we'll see you next time.